5 minutes and counting.
There's been another mass shooting in America. This time in a...
Chief Julian Assange has been severed from his key lifeline of the internet in what is being called an intentional state act. That is according to a post on the organization's official Twitter page. The web is one of the links Assange has to the wider world, considering he's been holed up inside the Ecuadorian embassy in London for more than 4 years.
Ecuador's government has confirmed it cut internet access for WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange following a raft of leaked emails targeting US Democrats. In a statement, Ecuadorian officials said they'd taken the action believing Assange was using it to interfere with the US presidential election. Assange, who has sought asylum in the embassy since 2012 to avoid extradition over sexual assault allegations, found that he'd lost internet access on Sunday. The Ecuador government denied it had acted as a result of US pressure and said it was merely respecting the principle of non-intervention.
An investigation underway in the firebombing of a Republican Party office in North Carolina. Officials say someone threw a bottle filled with flammable liquid into the building over the weekend. An attack one state Republican is calling political terrorism. Our Jonathan Serry live in Atlanta with more. Jonathan.
Hi, John. Well, local and federal authorities are still trying to determine who was responsible for this attack. Workers at that Republican headquarters say that they had received no threats other than the occasional verbal insults that you would expect in any campaign. But sometime late Saturday night or early Sunday morning, someone threw an object with a combustible fluid through a window, and that set fire to much of the Orange County Republican Party office in Hillsborough, North Carolina. No one was there at the time, but this close to a presidential election, workers say it's common for people to be in that office at odd hours, and it's very fortunate no one was injured.
Another violent attack to tell you about at a Republican headquarters this time. 2 bricks hurled through the windows at Delaware County Republican Party offices, this in Indiana, and that's where Trump signs were on display. This comes just days after someone firebombed a Republican headquarters building in North Carolina. Republican offices in Phoenix also targeted by a bomb threat on Monday.
Mosaic got a better understanding today of the dimensions of that massive sinkhole in Polk County that opened up in August. The phosphate company has been looking into the best ways to fill it up, but first needs to determine which areas around it are safe. Using remote sensing technology, Mosaic reports the sinkhole is 150 feet in diameter at its widest point and approximately 220 feet deep. The company anticipates fixes will be complete before spring of next year. When the sinkhole opened, it dumped more than 200 million gallons of toxic waste into a water supply source for millions of Floridians, which Mosaic says was contained.
The UN's cultural body UNESCO has adopted a contentious resolution heavily criticizing Israel's activities at holy sites in East Jerusalem. The motion refers to the area known to Jews as Temple Mount and to Muslims as Haram al-Sharif. Israel reacted with fury, claiming it denies the Jewish religion's deep historical connections to the site.
We will not negotiate and we won't take a part in this ugly game. This game, there is no place for those games here in UNESCO. This noble organization was established to preserve the history, not to rewrite it.
The Arab-backed resolution condemned Israel for restricting Muslims' access to the complex in East Jerusalem and for aggression by Israeli police and soldiers.
This resolution just reminds Israel that they are the occupying power in East Jerusalem, and it asks them to stop all their violations, especially in the fields of competence of UNESCO.
The holy site has been a flashpoint of Israeli-Palestinian violence in recent years. Israel froze ties with UNESCO last week when the resolution, which was entitled Occupied Palestine, passed at the draft stage.
It may seem like an unlikely place for a big change, but what's happening in a local school can make a world of difference for some teens. Good evening, everybody. Walnut Hills High School now has 3 bathrooms in the building that anyone, no matter what their gender, can use.
Ohio doesn't have a law requiring the schools to do this. The principal told me it happened mainly because students wanted it. The sign shows a man, a woman, and a handicapped person and says gender neutral. Inside, it's a typical single-stall private bathroom. This is one of 3 now at Walnut Hills High School.
that they feel comfortable in their environment.
Principal Jeff Brokamp says the school had one single-stall restroom before that could be used by anyone, but now there are 3 with the official label. It's a change they made partly because of conversations with the student representative from the Gay, Straight, Trans Alliance at Walnut Hills.
I needed to understand, and this young lady has, in her various conversations that we've had in the past year, representing this organization within our school, which is a very active organization, has helped me and other people understand what the challenges are for some students.
The private bathroom helps ensure a safe school for all students. Sean Jeffers is with GLSEN, the Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network. He works with transgender students and says some have missed class or aren't using the restroom because there's not a place for them.
If they go to a bathroom that they do not identify with, so if they are forced to go to a bathroom that is of their biological sex but not of their identity, that they feel that it basically discounts who they are, and that people just think they're saying they're something for attention. And so the school is some ways making these students feel that they don't fit in.
Walnut Hills is part of the Cincinnati public school system. The district supports the move, saying, quote, "We do not make assumptions about people who identify as transgender, but we do try to work out any issues on an issue-by-issue basis."
More than 1,000 locals and asylum seekers on the Greek island of Lesbos took to the streets on Tuesday night to protest against the European Union's closed border policy. The island of Lesbos has been the gateway to Europe for refugees, but since a deal in March between Brussels and Ankara, asylum seekers have either found themselves stuck on the island or deported back to Turkey.
In an extremely rare move, Saudi Arabia has executed a member of its royal family after he was found guilty of murder. State-run media say Prince Turki bin Saud Al Kabir was convicted of shooting a man to death. The sentence was upheld in the appeal and Supreme Courts and by royal order. No details have been released about the method of execution.
Because 5 words could land you in jail. That's what happened to a Chandler woman. Those words spoken in the privacy of her own home. Yes, and Katie Connor is live with this exclusive story. Katie, let's talk about she can end up in jail. Is that accurate?
That's right, and this all started, Chris, as a neighbor dispute, but it is raising the question, is it illegal to swear? Take a listen to what the 71-year-old woman yelled at her neighbor. Miriam Ingram caught on camera yelling at her neighbors, upset over them smoking outside. She claims the smell was coming through the vents, and it wasn't the first time. This summer, she yelled what you just heard from inside her own home. But Miriam didn't know her neighbors were recording her until there was a knock at her front door.
I just came by to ask you why you yelled what you yelled at your neighbor. You still can't yell obscenities at people over the wall.
He just told me that he was going to file charges, and I'm really in a panic because I'm thinking they're going to come arrest me.
Ingram has been charged with disorderly conduct. She does face possible jail time coming up at 6:30. Chris, we're going to take a look at why some say this is an attack on the First Amendment.
In other news, Halloween now just 2 weeks away, but there is some popular costume that you will not find at one of the nation's largest retailers this year. ABC 7's Rebecca Vargas joins us now with what the creepy clown craze sweeping social media has to do with this change at Target.
Well, Scott, just this morning we're learning that Target has pulled all clown masks from their store's shelves and on their website. This comes after what's being called the creepy clown scare in some parts of the country, where pranks, threats, and just general creepy stories are being told about people in clown masks. Target saying this decision was made out of sensitivity to the issue at hand. But all these clown encounters seem to be helping scary clown masks fly off the shelves in other stores. National costume retailer Halloween Express says that its clown costume sales are up 239% this year so far. Even McDonald's is being extra cautious, considering where their famous clown Ronald McDonald will appear. The corporation released a statement last week saying, in quote, "The current climate around clown sightings in communities is the reason why they are doing this." We caught up with Suncoast parents to find out what they think about the impact the scare is having on Halloween.
Everyone's got to be so politically correct these days. I think that it's just some people just having fun, but I understand Target's got to do what they feel is going to give them the image they're looking for?
Personally, I don't see the need for that, but my kids are young and they're not a fan of clowns, so I'm kind of like, yeah, sure, I'm indifferent.
For those that are indifferent or just still want a clown costume, just a few stores down from the Target in the UTC shopping area, Spirit Halloween is still carrying their clown costumes. Scott, back to you.
The Florida Agriculture Commission working to stop the spread of deadly screw worms. They've killed about 30 deer in the Keys just within the past 2 weeks, and they could eventually pose a threat to your pet. Screw worms actually have flies that lay eggs right near open wounds, with the larvae actually feeding on living flesh. 4 in your corner is Carl Fortier. We're going to find out if you need to be concerned about your pet or livestock. Carl?
Well, decades ago, the screwworm parasite cost the U.S. livestock industry millions every year. With Collier just one county north of the Keys in Monroe County, Florida agriculture officials hope the Keys' relative isolation helps stop the spread of the parasite up this way.
Whenever they hatch, they actually eat and burrow into live flesh.
There hadn't been an infestation of screwworms in the U.S. in over 30 years until the Department of Agriculture found that the parasite was killing the small key deer found only in the Florida Keys.
I don't want to lose those key deer, and I applaud them for putting every effort they can to save not only the key deer, but the animal industry in Florida.
The USDA is working with Florida ag officials to contain the screwworm infestation. Jim Strickland says he saw firsthand the damage that screwworms did to cattle in Costa Rica and doesn't want to see the same thing happen here to cattle or pets.
To my knowledge, the last time I saw the report was they had not found any indication on anyone's pets.
I checked with Collier County's Domestic Animal Services, who tell me they aren't concerned with screwworms affecting pets just yet, unless they show signs of moving closer. Strickland says if an infected animal is treated in time, screwworms aren't necessarily fatal.
Are we worried? Yes. Do we have confidence in the technology that is available to us to control this? Absolutely.
Agriculture officials are releasing millions of sterilized male screwworm flies to mate with the female screwworm flies in the Keys so that any eggs produced won't hatch. They say that the sterilized insects are effective enough that pesticides won't be necessary.
Officer Veronica Murillo didn't know it at the time, but 28-year-old Parta Huff was high on PCP when he crashed his car and walked away.
Fight him! Fight him! Fight him! Get down on the ground, dude! Get down on the ground! Get down on the ground! Get down on the ground!
As the officers struggled to get Huff cuffed, he got a hold of Murillo's hair. She cries out in pain, and then Huff falls backwards and pulls Murillo down with him, smashing her head into the pavement. Moments later, a tactical officer responding to the radio call for help rushes up and grabs Huff's leg and tries to pull him off, but Huff refuses to let go of Murillo.
Roosevelt is systemized. Asking for more units. Roosevelt is systemized. Look over! Taser deployment.
Officers deploy tasers multiple times, but Huff is unfazed and keeps his vice grip on Murillo's hair.
He's ripping me. Time one! He's got a Pino's head! He's not letting go! We're taser! It's not working!
A day after the incident, the superintendent said Murillo would have been justified in shooting Huff in this situation, but she told him she did not use her gun because she did not want the scrutiny of a Laquan McDonald situation. After Huff was finally subdued, the tactical officer's body camera caught this telling exchange with firefighters that shows how attitudes about deadly force have been impacted by cameras.
Were you with her? Yeah, I got tased. I was the first one here, Russell, with him. He got hit, me and him.
A couple months ago, you could have shot him.
There's been another mass shooting in America. This time in a